Strange New Worlds is finally making Star Trek Enterprise more important. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is finally making Star Trek Enterprise more important. Originally airing from 2001 to 2005, Star Trek Enterprise attempted to beat franchise fatigue with a prequel series set earlier in the Star Trek timeline. Star Trek Enterprise starred Scott Bakula as Captain Jonathan Archer in command of the previously unknown NX-01 Enterprise in the 2150s. Archer was joined by new characters in crew positions that were already familiar to Star Trek fans, like Ensign Hoshi Sato, Linda Park, handling communications, Chief Engineer Trip Tucker, Connor Trenier, and Ensign Travis Mayweather, Anthony Montgomery, at the helm. Although Star Trek Enterprise followed a familiar format, Enterprise's awkward position as a Star Trek prequel meant it had a hard time fitting into Star Trek's shared universe organically. Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Voyager benefited from a shared timeline, Star Trek character crossovers, and reverence for Star Trek, the original series. Star Trek Enterprise couldn't easily reference series that took place later without shoehorning, and its characters couldn't have been mentioned in shows that were produced earlier. Without the same success, Enterprise isn't remembered as fondly as earlier series. Star Trek Enterprise got long overdue respect from Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 7, Those Old Scientists. After being surprised by hero worship from 24th century ensigns Beckett Mariner, Tawny Newsome, and Brad Boimler, Jack Quaid, Captain Christopher Pike's Anson Mount Enterprise crew imagined meeting their 22nd century heroes. Finding a piece of Archer's Enterprise within Pike's Enterprise, they discover Pike's admiration for Captain Archer is matched by Ensign Nyota Uhura's Celia Rose Gooding respect for Hoshi Sato, and Lieutenant Erica Ortegas's Melissa Navia appreciation for Travis Mayweather. Even the NX-01's grapplers earn a nod. The conversation gives Star Trek Enterprise a historical context that wasn't possible in earlier Star Trek shows. Instead of being the oft-forgotten characters of the Star Trek franchise's black sheep, the crew of Archer's Enterprise are just as important to the Star Trek Strange New Worlds characters as the crew of Pike's Enterprise are to Mariner and Boimler from Star Trek Lower Decks. That reverence speaks to just how significant the NX-01 and its crew are to the Star Trek universe, and always have been, even if they couldn't have been referenced in Star Trek's 1990s trifecta. Scott Bakula's Star Trek Enterprise is important to Star Trek because Archer's Enterprise helps Star Trek's idealized future come into being. On humanity's first Warp 5 capable starship, the galaxy is a much larger place for Captain Archer, whose reckless optimism is as admirable as it is flawed. The rules that guide Star Trek captains, like Starfleet's Prime Directive, have yet to be invented, and Archer helps to invent them. Archer's friendships with T'Pol, Jolene Blalock, and Thilek Shran, Jeffrey Combs, are a precursor to humans, Vulcans, Andorians, and Tellarites aligned to form the United Federation of Planets. Star Trek Strange New Worlds has reignited enthusiasm for the classic spacefaring saga, embracing the legacy of earlier shows while charting new territory in the Star Trek universe. One of its most exciting accomplishments is how it elevates the importance of Star Trek Enterprise in ways that were either overlooked or underappreciated at the time of its original airing. While Enterprise has often been regarded as one of the more divisive entries in the franchise, with mixed critical reception during its run from 2001 to 2005, Strange New Worlds is finally weaving the narrative threads established by Enterprise into the broader Star Trek mythos in a way that honors its unique contributions. Bridging the gap between past and future Star Trek Enterprise was a prequel series set before the original 1960s Star Trek, featuring the voyages of the Starship Enterprise NX-01 under the command of Captain Jonathan Archer. It explored the early days of Starfleet, the Federation, and humanity's first tentative steps into the wider galaxy. This was a critical period for the formation of many elements central to Star Trek, from the founding of the United Federation of Planets to humanity's often rocky relationship with species like the Vulcans, Andorians, and Klingons. While the series struggled to maintain consistent viewership during its initial run, fans of Enterprise have long argued that the show laid important groundwork for the Star Trek universe. Its depiction of early Starfleet missions and the development of key political and technological frameworks was essential to Star Trek lore, but much of this significance wasn't fully recognized until long after the show had ended. Now, Strange New Worlds is directly tying into that history, bringing Enterprise's legacy to the forefront. Embracing Enterprise's legacy in Strange New Worlds has made conscious efforts to connect back to Enterprise and its characters, themes, and events. One of the most immediate ways this is done is through Captain Christopher Pike, played by Anson Mount, and his connection to Starfleet's early days. Pike's character, serving in a pre-Star Trek, the original series timeframe, naturally operates in a period closer to that of Archer and his crew. This provides a more organic way for Strange New Worlds to incorporate elements of Enterprise into its own narrative tapestry. A significant example of this connection is the show's references to the temporal Cold War, a central plotline from Enterprise. This conflict, which spanned multiple time periods and involved various factions attempting to manipulate history, was one of the more ambitious story arcs in Enterprise, but was never fully resolved by the time the series ended. By touching on these themes in Strange New Worlds, the show not only honors Enterprise's narrative scope, but also continues to build on the time-traveling complexities introduced back then, lending additional weight to the events of the prequel series. Furthermore, Strange New Worlds has spotlighted characters with direct ties to Enterprise. One of the most prominent examples is the appearance of T'Pol, played by Jolene Blalock, or at least her legacy being referenced through other Vulcan characters who remember her role in bridging the gap between Vulcan and human diplomacy. T'Pol's presence on the NX-01 as an early Vulcan officer in Starfleet was groundbreaking for the time period, and set the stage for future Vulcan involvement in Starfleet, which Strange New Worlds acknowledges. By paying homage to this connection, the show reinforces the importance of Enterprise in shaping the Star Trek universe as we know it. Exploring Enterprise's themes of exploration and diplomacy, Strange New Worlds also shares thematic DNA with Enterprise in its focus on the challenges of exploration and diplomacy. Where Enterprise highlighted humanity's often naive but hopeful attempts to establish relationships with alien civilizations, Strange New Worlds delves deeper into these issues with the benefit of hindsight. It shows how lessons learned by Archer and his crew have influenced Starfleet's approach in subsequent decades. Diplomacy, in particular, is a theme that resonates across both series. In Enterprise, the groundwork is laid for the eventual formation of the United Federation of Planets, with much of the show's narrative focusing on how Earth and its allies navigate the complex political landscape of the galaxy. Strange New Worlds revisits these early diplomatic efforts, showing how they evolved into more formalized structures and agreements. Additionally, Strange New Worlds reflects Enterprise's spirit of exploration. Archer's crew was among the first to encounter the unknowns of space with little guidance from more advanced species. Similarly, Pike and his crew embody that same sense of adventure, pushing the boundaries of known space while navigating uncharted territories. By drawing these parallels, Strange New Worlds reinforces the idea that the early struggles of Enterprise laid the foundation for the more organized and principled Starfleet of later generations. A belated appreciation for Enterprise for many fans, Enterprise was ahead of its time, offering complex political storylines, nuanced characters, and intricate,